Good morning, it's your slipper-shod pastor again. And this morning I was reading from the book of Genesis, in particular Genesis 49. It's a story, the deathbed scene, if you will, of Jacob, the last of the patriarchs of Israel. And he's gathered there with his 12 sons, the progenitors of the 12 tribes of Israel. And he gives them their blessings. And then he asks that they take his body after he's died and bury it in Canaan. Now, this scene takes place in Egypt because they've escaped Canaan, where they had been sojourning, because of famine. But he wants to be buried in the place where Abraham, his grandfather, and Isaac, his father, were buried. And we know, because we read ahead, that that is the only piece of land that's going to be held by the Hebrews until the Exodus. The promise was given to Abraham, 2 generations previously, that I'll bless you, make of you a great nation, and through you all the nations of the world will be blessed. I'll give you this land and these people. But Abraham never owns anything in Canaan except that place where his body is resting, where Sarah is buried, where Isaac and Rebekah are buried, and where Jacob and Leah are buried. And we know, because we've read ahead, that it's not for another 450 years that Joseph, Jacob's son, will get to Canaan, because they'll carry his bones so that they might be laid in that same cave. So from the time of the giving of the promise to Abraham until the time of the Exodus, there was no evidence that God's promise was going to be fulfilled in the lives of the offspring of Abraham. But nevertheless, Jacob on his deathbed wants to be laid to rest in Canaan because he knows that the promise is sure. Jacob is keeping the flame of the relationship alive. So when I read this passage, I thought of Mary Chapin Carpenter's song from, my goodness sakes, I think 1997 or so, A Keeper for Every Flame. And these are what the lyrics say. Sometimes it's a fire burning out of control. Sometimes it's a candle burning long and low. All these years she never let it go. There's a keeper for every flame. God initiated the relationship that we have with God in this story of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and all the people of Israel. God initiated this relationship with us by sending a son who lived and died and rose again. God has maintained this relationship through the word and sacraments, through the people of God gathered either in person or virtually as we are. God is the keeper of the flame, but every relationship needs more than one. And so the question is, what are we doing to keep the flame? Are we, like Jacob, able to act on the basis of the promise even when there's not a lot of evidence to show that the promise is being fulfilled? Sometimes our lives are full of challenge. Sometimes we get distracted by the excitement and the demands of the day. And all these things, either discouragement or busyness or elation, can cause us to stop tending the flame. But this day, care for it, cradle it, hold it close, because it's the flame that brings us warmth and light and peace. Amen.